Hi guys, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to a very exciting video. I'm really excited about it anyways. I love watching any video where people just like walk through all of their like money methods, how they budget, their credit cards, all that kind of stuff. And this was originally just going to be a February budget with me, but then I decided to add a financial Q&A on the end because obviously you guys always have questions for me and I love being able to answer them and just, you know, provide some information, even though I'm not like an expert by any means. I'm just a gal who likes talking about personal finance. A lot of the same questions, whether it was credit cards, what my budget method is, or investments. And so I figured I would go back to basics and film a video all about how I manage my money, from my budget method to how I budget monthly, my credit cards, my investments, my savings, how I pay bills with a partner, etc. Just like one giant video for you guys to reference. Obviously, a lot of you guys probably found me through my budget paychecks video, which at the time of filming this, I think has like 900,000 views or something, which is just so crazy. And it's so true what they say, that the most unexpected video will go viral. And since then, a lot has changed. Obviously, I budget differently. I have a different budget spreadsheet. My income has changed. Like, I don't work a full-time corporate job anymore. And so I thought it was time for a little refresh. And that's what we're gonna do. I'll put timestamps in the video if you're only interested in certain sections, but I have a ton of notes on my computer. I have been prepping for this video for days so that I didn't forget anything. And yeah, but honestly, let's jump into it. I guess we'll just start with like a little FAQ, get to know me if you guys are newer to my channel. So hi, my name's Carter. I'm 25. I live in Ottawa, Canada with my boyfriend and our 2.5-year-old lab Rottweiler. We purchased our first house in May of 2021. I've not always had a good relationship with money. I had really bad impulse spending problems throughout college. You know, I was 18, handed a credit card with no advice given to me, and I ended up in $10,000 of consumer debt. And then I had $10,000 of student loans. The reason I did have more loans, which that is a common question I get, is because my parents split up when I was young, and my mom, being the badass, amazing woman she is, told my dad that he would pay for my school one day instead of providing child support. And I think that was just the most selfless decision she could have made, because it really did help me in the long run. So thanks, Mom, if you're watching this, and thanks to my dad for paying for my school as well. But I took a 5th year for mental health reasons, and so I paid for that 1 year of school out of pocket, took out loans. So when I graduated in 2021, I had about $20,000 of debt, and I worked full-time all throughout school too. So it was just a issue with me not knowing how to manage my money. I was in therapy for other issues as well, but also to just heal my relationship with money and find the root of my kind of spending problems. And I've tried a few things out. I'm a firm believer that there are so many budget methods out there, and what works for one person might not work for you. Figure out what works for you, trial and error a few things. And yeah, if you guys have any other questions, let me know down below. I'm obviously not a financial professional. Anytime I ask for like questions for financial Q&A, it's a lot of advice, and I just don't feel comfortable giving advice because I'm not a financial professional. This is just a 25-year-old gal trying to figure out her 20s. And I just enjoy talking about personal finance. So I won't be answering any advice in this video, nor do I feel comfortable giving advice. But I'll try my best to help you guys out in any way that I can. My blowout today is like a little wild. The hair is a little crazy, but we're plopped down on the living room floor. I'm not really sure why. This just seemed like a really comfy spot for me to like sit and chill. And I want this video to be casual, kind of like, you know, we're friends, we're at a coffee shop, and you're like, hey, run me through like your budget method. Like, I want to learn how to budget. And I'm like, I got you. Let's do it. I figured the best way to start was to start with my budget method and what I do. I just want to say that budgeting is not a one-size-fits-all. There's so many different ways to budget out there, and at the end of the day, you have to do what's going to make the most sense for you, because budgeting is something that requires effort, and you have to enjoy the method that you do. For me, for example, I did zero-based budgeting when I graduated to pay off all that debt. I was working 2 full-time jobs, and I was doing the whole like allocating every dollar thing. And then about a year, no, maybe 6 months ago, I actually stopped doing that. It just wasn't for me in the season of life I'm in anymore. I have nothing against like zero-based budgeting, every dollar-based budgeting. It just wasn't for me in the season of life, and it's something I worked through in therapy. But that doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that it's not for me where I am right now. Same thing goes for budgeting apps. A lot of people like Notion and Mint and Every Dollar. I prefer using like a comprehensive spreadsheet because I really like to see. I'm a very number, graph, pie chart driven person, and so for me that's what works best in order for me to keep up with my budget and enjoy it. Like at the end of the day, right, whatever tool, software, spreadsheet you're using, it has to be something you somewhat enjoy doing because you're going to be doing it whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. So you have to kind of enjoy it. So right now I follow a conscious spending plan and the pay yourself first model. Like I said, I really worked through a scarcity mindset with money for years and just like impulsive spending. And this is just what works for me where I am right now. So I first heard about this from Ramit Sethi and his book. It's one of the only finance books I honestly recommend because it's the only one that really clicked in my head. And his book is called I Will Teach You to Be Rich. I can link it down below for you guys. It was really life-changing. So this is a budgeting method that takes kind of an intentional approach to how you spend and save your money. So I'm going to read you a direct quote of kind of the budget principle. It says, conscious spending focuses on analyzing your spending habits and concentrating your efforts on paying bills, saving for retirement, and setting aside money each month for yourself. It allows you to spend money on things you enjoy while cutting out things that you don't. It recommends that your conscious spending, whatever you want to call it, budget, spend plan, whatever, should be 50 to 60% fixed costs. So those are your monthly bills, your debt payoff, and other necessities. Investments 10%, savings 5 to 10%, and guilt-free spending 20 to 35%. So it kind of does follow the 50, 30, 20 model, which I can also say is something that I do, right? Because it kind of follows those same percentages. And this is what allows me to kind of spend a little bit more guilt-free. You know, I'm really working through the idea that you work for your money and you deserve to spend some of it on fun things. You don't just need to spend on essentials and saving and investment for the future. The key is to be able to spend guilt-free in moderation. I kind of view it like eating, right? Like I eat a very balanced, healthy diet most of the time, and I'm not going to feel guilty for eating sweets and treats in moderation. I feel like a conscious spending method requires you to be very, very aware. And for me, it worked best because I not aggressively, but because I did zero-based budgeting for so long, it kind of works for me now because I'm in this phase of life where I can just kind of consciously budget. But when I first started, I definitely could not have done this because I would have just been spending left, right, and center. It was really important for me to get a handle on my finances and figure out, you know, why I'm spending so much, what categories I need to cut back on, what categories are important for me before I move to this approach. I'm not saying that you can't just start with this approach by any means. Like I said, trial and error, figure out what works for you. But yeah, that is the budgeting method that I follow. It is, you guys, but I love updating my spreadsheet, okay? I look forward to it. Like last night was Sunday and it was like 8 p.m. I was sipping on some kombucha in a wine glass and I was like, I just want to update my budget spreadsheet. Like, why not? It's just something I've turned into a fun thing. You know, I feel like it's kind of one of those things that you can habit stack if you're just starting out and make it fun, right? Like associate it with maybe like going to get a coffee and sitting at a coffee shop and going through your budget, or doing it with a glass of wine on Friday night. Like it's all about making it fun, in my opinion. And then next we will get into my bank account setup. I want to say that I'm not going to be sharing any exact numbers in this video. That personally makes me feel really uncomfortable. I'm all about sharing your finances on the internet if you feel comfortable doing so, but I think there's just certain things that you should keep private. For me, that includes like savings totals, investment totals. It just makes me uncomfortable. Obviously, the internet is an open place, and while I think sharing personal finance journeys and videos is informative and important, there's just some things I personally think that you should keep to yourself, right? Like that's just putting you on blast online for like how much I have XYZ saved and invested. I don't know. Just a boundary I have for my safety, my privacy, and my security. Let's talk about my bank setup super quick. This isn't gonna be a long section because I have, you know, broken it down to like savings, investments, bills, etc. So I currently bank with RBC. I do bank with them for my personal and my business banking, and it's great because once I log into my personal banking, I can just click a button and it switches right to my business one, which is super convenient. I have 2 checkings accounts. I have my Money Hub, which is just my main checkings account. I have a separate account for bills. It just, I don't know, it just is a lot of work to me, but if that works for you, that's totally great. I hope this video as a whole isn't telling you what you should do, but it's just kind of like what I do, and maybe that'll work for you and maybe it won't. For me, having an extra account for bills is just like a little too much work, but for you, maybe you find that really necessary, and that's totally okay. My checkings account is kind of like my Money Hub. Money comes in, money goes out. It's where I get paid. It's where bills come out. It's just kind of like my little Grand Central Station, if you will. You know, we got like the different trains going different places, but we have that hub, the Grand Central Station, you know? And because I do still have impulsive tendencies, I'm not perfect. While I have made a lot of strides towards correcting that behavior and understanding the root of why I do it, I'm human, I'm not perfect. We are all gonna spend impulsively once in a while, like that is life. And so I do have a second checkings account. It's called my Oopsies account. I have about $500 in there at all times. I never make an impulsive purchase that big, but it's there. If I were to make an impulsive purchase and decide that I really want to keep it, that account is there. Like I said, I make personal finance videos and I'm not perfect. Personally, for me, it's nice just like knowing it's there. It's something my therapist recommended and it's actually really helpful to me. I've never actually touched it, but just like knowing it's there somehow helps curb my impulse spending. I also obviously have my different savings accounts, but I'll go into that after, but that's like my bank account setup. Next, we'll talk about savings and investments. So with RBC, I have 3 of their high interest e-savings accounts. And this is a personal thing, I tried putting my emergency fund into EQ Bank, which has a lot higher of an interest rate, but the thought of having my money in a different bank gives me a lot of anxiety, and it's just easier for me to keep it in my RBC account. I'm probably missing out on a little bit of interest, but that's okay for me because the security is kind of what matters most, and being able to access that money in case something happens. So with that being said, my 3 high interest e-savings accounts within RBC are my emergency fund, which that includes my general emergency fund and also the emergency fund for the kids, which is Stella, our dog, and Salem, my horse. I have a taxes account because I am partially self-employed and I pay myself a dividend. I do have to put money aside for my taxes. So I put aside about 15 to 20% depending what tax bracket I'm kind of thinking I'm going to be in that year. And then I have a sinking and short-term savings. So that's for just whatever. Honestly, right now it has our property tax money in it that I've been putting money aside for every month. The heat just came on so freaking loud. It's like literally killing my freaking vibe right now. But hashtag winter in Canada. My next savings account, which by no means do I think that any of these are like necessary. It's just what I have. It's just what works for me. I have a Neo money account, which is their savings account. I'll put the interest rate right here. It's pretty good. This is tied to my Neo credit card, and I use this for whatever I am like going to use my card for, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna get into my credit cards after, but basically this is either like spending money on a trip or Christmas presents, something that's like more of a short-term savings sinkings fund. And I just enjoy that it's attached to a credit card. So for example, this year I used it for Christmas presents. So I had $500 in there. I only used my Neo credit card for Christmas presents. So it was really easy to keep tabs on my balance because like they're right next to each other. But yeah, their interest rate is really, really good. So if you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend. Then I also have 2 accounts with Wealthsimple. I have a TFSA and an RRSP. So I'll put the equivalent of a TFSA in the States on the screen for you. I believe it's what you guys call a Roth IRA. If it's to a TFSA, or obviously that you don't pay on investment gains, you can withdraw funds at any time without penalty, and you can start with as little money as you want. So this is my investment account. I'll put some of my investment details on the screen here. I always get asked how I started investing, and I'm really grateful that Matt and his brothers and his dad are very into the investing world and the finance world, so they were able to help me out a lot. But I highly recommend talking to a financial advisor, or just like looking up people on YouTube or TikTok that are educated and professionals. But I think a TFSA is a really great place to start because the stock market can be scary. And so obviously you have to make sure that your TFSA is being invested into stocks, but it's a great place to start if you're kind of a bit unsure or you're not really sure. I contribute $50 weekly to that account, and then at the end of the month I top it out because I try to invest about $1,000 a month. But because my income fluctuates so much, $50 weekly is like a good amount for me to do. And then at the end of the month, whatever I kind of have left over or have extra money to save, I'll throw into that account. Then I also have the Wealthsimple RRSP, which its primary purpose before we bought our house was to save for a house because you can use it and cash it out for your first time home buyers incentive in Canada. I'll also put the equivalent of an RRSP on the screen for my US followers. The benefits to an RRSP are obviously that it can lower your income tax bill. You can withdraw your money at retirement for a lower tax rate, and then funds can be withdrawn to buy a house or pay for education. Literally the only reason I have this account is to lower my taxes. So basically, because in Canada taxes open on February 20th, I do my taxes myself through Wealthsimple. I plug everything in, see how much I'm owing, Then because I have until March 1st to put money into an RRSP, I'll throw my tax money into an RRSP, and that typically lowers my tax contributions. Obviously, I'm not an accountant or professional, it's just what I do. But that is why I have an RRSP, is to lower my taxable income. And if you think about it, I'd rather put money into an RRSP for my future than give the government my money. Those are all of my savings accounts. Let's move to bills and expenses really quick. I get asked a lot how Matt and I split our bills, and I think I have a whole video on this, so I'll link it down below. I'm pretty sure that I filmed one. We have our finances separate. It's just a lot easier, especially with me and the business. I get questions a lot if we're gonna combine finances when we're married, and the answer is probably no, to be honest. What's like the expression? Why break like what's working for you? Why ruin a good thing? You know that expression? It works for us, so why change it? Who knows? Never say never, but for now we have no intention of combining our finances. Matt and I do split our bills 50-50. It's just an agreement we have. Even though I make more money, it's just what we do. It's just what works for us. I'm not saying that you have to split your bills 50-50. Talk about it in your relationship. Matt and I are very open about our finances and figure out what works best for you and your relationship. When it comes to expenses, however, we're kind of all over the place. I typically will offer to pay for more of the expenses because I do make more money, and people always DM me and are like, how does Matt feel about you broadcasting that you make more money than him? And he has no issue with it. He's very secure in our relationship. It's also 2023. It's okay for women to be the breadwinner. But I do offer to pay for more of the expenses since I do make more money. I also have more bills than Matt does. So I have a car payment, Matt's car is paid off, and my car insurance is pretty high because I've had an accident. So I do pay more in bills monthly than he does. But typically we just kind of trade on and off and we take turns. We don't really like split things really aggressively down the middle, if I'm being honest. But for example, let's say we go to Costco, which that's usually a big thing, we'll split it 50-50. But if we're like going to the grocery store, he'll usually pay for it. I pay for the chef's plate. If we go out for dinner, we take turns. When we go on vacation, I typically pay for most of it because most of the time it is like business and work. If like a brand is inviting us out on a trip, so I'll pay for that because it has to go through the business, stuff like that. Yeah, I would not say that we're really strict on it. I'm not telling you guys to do that, but it's just what works in our relationship. We just kind of go back and forth. Like I said, we're very open about our finances too. So if one of us is feeling more stressed than the other, maybe the other person will pay, etc. But Matt has like his own investments and savings and stuff. Obviously I choose to put my finances on the internet, but Matt doesn't. So you guys will never see me budget with his money because that's his, not that it's his money, it's our money, but like, you know what I mean. Next, we're gonna talk about credit cards. So I put everything on credit cards. In Canada, there's not a ton of bills that you can put on credit cards, or you can, but you get charged like a penalty, which to me, I would just like rather have it come out of my account. I do put all my variable expenses on credit cards. I didn't do this when I first started budgeting though, because I was so impulsive. I paid for everything on my debit card until my credit cards were paid off, and then I started slowly. So I would just do maybe gas and then maybe add on groceries until I felt comfortable only taking out my credit card if I knew I could afford it. You guys know I love to try new credit cards out, and I get asked a lot how often I apply for new credit cards. I am obviously not a financial professional. I can't really like tell you guys what to do. I will say I probably apply for a new credit card every 6 months to a year. I never noticed it impact my credit score negatively. I have a very good credit score. I do keep my oldest credit card open always. It has a $500 limit. It's super low, so that helps as well. And then most of my credit cards have low limits because a big part of your credit score is your credit utilization. And then I always pay my credit cards off in full, which helps as well. Oh, Stella has arisen from her nap. But I don't feel comfortable like giving tips on like credit cards and scores and stuff because I'm not a professional. Highly recommend talking to a professional. Highly recommend talking to someone who knows, but I will just say that, yeah, I open probably 1 to 2 new credit cards and close 1 to 2 credit cards a year, and I've never had an issue with my credit score. How do I know when it's time to stop using a credit card? So typically I'll cancel it before the annual fee is up that first year, because usually the first year it'll be waived on most credit cards. So I try and rack up the benefits in the first year and then cancel it. There are some cards that I do just keep open though that have like maybe flight vouchers and stuff, but typically I will like work on accumulating the points, redeem the points, and then close the credit card. All right, so let's go through the credit cards that I currently have. So I have obviously the Neo Financial MasterCard. I love that credit card so much. I've had it for about 2 years now. I do have a referral link down below if you guys are interested. This video isn't sponsored, but I do work with them on an ongoing basis. This is one of the best credit cards I think you can get in Canada. It has no annual fee, average 5% cash back. It tracks your spending. It's just a really slick and easy to use interface. I just like love it so much. But yeah, if you guys want to open a Neo credit card, I have a referral link down below. You guys get $25 when you open it. To give you guys an example of the cash back, in January I earned $49.20 in cash back, which is great because for me that's a way to like guilt-free spend. So for example, I love the Love & Lore PJs from Indigo. They're my favorite brand ever, but they're a little pricey. And so this month I treated myself to a pair with my cash back, which was awesome. So I love my Neo credit card. You can also get like different bundles, which I'm going to talk about in an upcoming video, but I have the travel bundle, which totally pays itself off. I get 2% cash back on foreign purchases, priority pass, membership lounge access if my flight's delayed, and then I get 1.5% more cash back at travel partners and travel insurance. This card I use for everyday spending, but typically associated with my savings account, like I said. So it's typically for a purpose, whether it's like Christmas presents, personal spending, for a video. So if I'm doing like a decorate with me for the holidays, I'll put everything on there. Travel I like to put on there because of the cash back and the insurance. Next is the TD Aeroplan Visa. I actually am going to be closing this card because I opened a business travel card, but this is a pretty good one. I get free checked bags with this. I get an annual rebate for the first year. I got a Nexus rebate and the points are pretty good. They're affiliated with Starbucks, which is cool. So you get 50% more Aeroplan points at Starbucks. I don't have anything bad to say about this card. It's just kind of like mediocre in my opinion. I also have the WestJet Elite MasterCard. This is my oldest card and I do keep this card open. It has a $500 limit on it. And the only reason I keep it open is because I get a voucher every year for Matt to fly with me for $99, or I think it just went up to $119, which is still pretty good. And I get a decent amount of points. We put all of our home renovations on this card, so I have an insane amount of WestJet points to use. WestJet's definitely not my favorite airline now. I'm an Air Canada galley, but okay credit card. I would keep it open if I had better service on WestJet, but it comes down to like, I think the WestJet customer service is kind of trash. I also have the Amex Cobalt, which when I close my TD Visa, I'll just be using my Neo and my Cobalt, and then I'll probably kind of cool it for a bit because there's no really great other credit cards out there. The Amex Cobalt has wicked cashback as well. 5 times the points on eats and drinks, 3 times the points on streaming subscriptions, and 2 times the points on travel and transit. The only thing to be wary of is a lot of places in Canada still don't take Amex, but between that and my Neo card, those are like my 2 go-to. Then I also have the Amex Aeroplan Business Reserve credit card, which that is a business credit card. You have to have like a sole proprietor or an incorporation to open it. But it's honestly a pretty good card. I would highly recommend that everyone have a travel card and then just a cashback card if you like to travel a lot, because in the last year, Matt and I have pretty much taken all of our trips for free or close to free with all of our like cashback points and all that. So this Amex gets you 3 times the Aeroplan on Air Canada, 2 times the Aeroplan on hotels and cars, and 1.25% Aeroplan on everything else. When I open a new credit card, I just time it for like if we have big things coming up like the home renos or trips or tuition. This one also gives me an Air Canada voucher every year for $100, $100 Nexus credit, Maple Leaf Lounge, and Priority Pass access. So those are all of my credit cards. Quickly, I'll talk about current debts because I think that's important too. So I have 2. I have a car loan and a home loan. Obviously, my car loan is around $15,000 at 2.5%. I have a 2017 Hyundai Elantra. I'm making the choice not to pay it off early just because I'd rather put that extra money into investments where my return on investment is higher, obviously. But I was trying to look up the average like return on investment for TFSA, but I can't get like a concrete info. It's like between, I want to say 4 and 7%. Right now I can put mine in. I think it's at like 3.3, but still that's more of an investment than my car. So yeah, nothing wrong with paying off debt early. I'm all for like debt snowball or whatever you want to do, but just do what's best for you. And then I have our home loan, which I actually just checked today. I hadn't checked in a hot minute, and I was kind of shocked at how much we've already paid off of our loan. So our home loan currently sits at $377,881, and we have a 1.8% fixed mortgage for 5 years. So I don't think I've ever shared how much our home loan is, but I have like no shame in sharing it. So those are my current debts. But I figured now we would jump into my February budget, and I would show you guys around my budget in case you're curious how it works and kind of like my mindset when it comes to setting up my budget for the month. And yeah, I just want to obviously start by saying that I probably don't do things like the most practical way. I do things a little backwards, and that's just because, of course, you guys know I work a part-time job, so I have to supplement my income with my business. So I don't do things like the traditional way you guys will see. but it works for me, and at the end of the day, that's all that matters. What I have set up works for me to not overspend, and I love that. So let's jump into my budget. All right. Welcome to my February monthly money flow. So I've kind of steered away from using the word budget. It's just not for me anymore. For some reason, it just gives me a very negative connotation, if that makes sense. I'm not against anyone who uses the word budget. I didn't love it for me. I explained that more in my January like money goals video. So make sure you guys go check that out, or my 2023 money goals. But let's go through it. So the way that I do it is I plug in my income, I plug in my bills, and then my savings and investments, and the leftover is my expenses. But I do things a little differently because I supplement my income. So I work a part-time corporate job. I work between 3 to 4 days a week at $29 an hour. I also get 14% in lieu of. I'm on Matt's benefits. Oh my gosh, I also forgot to mention I do have a pension through the hospital. Silly me. But let's jump into it. So that's why my pay varies a lot. My first pay is going to be pretty high because I'm going to a conference and I worked a full 75 hours in this pay period. So we're going to put $1,900. My second pay will be pretty average. My average pay if I only work 3 days a week, which is like what I'm contracted to do, is $1,100 for 3 days a week. And this is where things get a little silly. So I try my best to live off of my corporate job as much as possible. So obviously, I feel like other people will just put in their business income and then like budget off of that. But what I try to do is I will plug in, because my paychecks will cover pretty much all of my bills. And I try and keep what I pay myself as low as possible for tax reasons, and also because I just don't want to give into lifestyle creep and inflation. I think I do a really good job at that. So I pay myself the least amount possible. I do things a little backwards, but it's just what works for me. All right, so bills every month. Our mortgage is $1,600 a month, but Matt and I split that. So yeah, my mortgage payment bi-weekly is $400, but in total our mortgage every month is $1,600. Condo fees are $165, that's my half. Utilities vary, but in the winter they're pretty close to $175. My car payment is $314. I pay $157 bi-weekly. Car insurance is $276. Yes, I've shopped around. It's because I have an at-fault accident and a speeding ticket. Gym is $80, Kindle Unlimited is $12, and then my phone bill is $75, but that gets written off by the business now, so I'm not going to be adding that in. So you guys can see here that we have $1,100 left. Like I said, I do invest $50 a week from my checkings into my TFSA, so I always start with $200. That's how much, like if I didn't do any additional contributions, that's how much I would put in there. And then I also contribute $500 to my rainy day savings, which is like my emergency fund. You guys can see I still have $478 left out of these, but I do like to have a bit of a buffer in my account. So now is when I start plugging in what my ideal month will look like. And then basically the number remaining will be in the negatives, and that'll tell me how much I need to pay myself, if that makes sense. I hope this makes sense. For example, I like this to be $1,000. Property taxes, I've been putting aside $175 a month for that. I'm gonna leave the savings as is for now, just because I really don't know what tax season is gonna look like. And then you guys know I've steered away from the whole like budgeting categories thing. It worked for me for the season of life. It doesn't now. But what I like to do is I like to put an amount here just to get an idea of what my credit card I would like to see it around at the end of the month. I'm not gonna hurt myself if I put like $200 for groceries. Oops. I'm not gonna like harp myself if I put like $200 here and then this ends up being $357. Every month is a bit different. I've learned that. I think with variable expenses, it's a lot of give and take. It really just depends on the month. But I try and kind of budget out an estimate. I always think, so we do chef's plate, that's the easiest thing to fill up first. That's $240. Like I said, Matt pays for most of the groceries. I am gonna take a trip across the border though, because I have some packages to pick up, and that means I'll stop at Walmart and probably get some goodies. So I'm gonna budget $200 for groceries. That doesn't mean that's what we spend. Matt takes care of most of the groceries. I wish we spent $200 a month on groceries in this economy. Eating out, we don't eat out a ton. Once again, guilt-free spending is all about cutting back in categories that just like don't really matter to you. And for us, it's eating out. It's just really expensive, and like it costs you $12 for a glass of wine when you can buy a whole bottle for that price. We typically will just do fast food, but Valentine's Day is coming, but I think we have gift cards. So I'm gonna leave our eating out at $100. Once again, Matt and I just take turns paying for it. We eat out every Friday. Coffee shops, we'll do $30. I am going to Quebec City for my work conference, but work will reimburse me for all the food and stuff. I also put down here, I'm like all over the place today, but things that are going on so I know how to budget for them. Gas and cars, since I am going to be going across the border, my car's at half a tank right now. So let's budget for a tank and a half. So let's say 100. Self-care and wellness, I'll probably get my nails done, which is like 50. Clothing, I really don't need anything, but see, by me putting 0, and then if I buy something that month, I don't beat myself up about it because I'm very conscious with my spending when it comes to that, right? So like I know that like maybe I really needed that piece of clothing, not in the moment, but I've just steered away from the whole categorized budgeting. It started to feel very restrictive to me, and everything changes, and not everything changes, but like every month things change, things come up unexpectedly, and it just works better for me. Treating myself, this could be anything, like a trip to Marshall's. I do have a category for books, but this, yeah, I should probably take out clothing and just leave it as one line, but let's put 150. I do have a bunch of packages from the US that I'm going to pick up that like I paid for like during Christmas and the holidays. Like I've just been like slowly buying things and sending it to my US address, so like it kind of will feel like Christmas. Treating Stella, she might need a bag of food and bone broth, so let's put 75, but typically her dog food goes on our grocery bill, so I'll put 50. Treating others, I'm gonna put actually 50 because it's Valentine's Day. We typically only do cards, but my love language is giving little gifts. Probably get Matt like a little something like, I don't know, a little Second Cup gift card, some dress socks, you know, and I'll get Stella something too. Home improvements. This is also where I mean like guilt-free spending, is if I put 0 here, but then let's say we decided we needed a rug and we really thought the purchase out, I'm not going to beat myself up since I put $0 on my home improvement budget that month. I'm going to put 200. I feel like that's what we've been spending a month. One of our big priorities for this year is upgrading things in the home. And so we have been buying things probably every month. I mean, we do thrift a lot and we do a lot of secondhand furniture shopping. So with that, it's just like very unexpected, right? Like Facebook Marketplace, thrift shops. If you watch the weekend vlog, you know, we went into the thrift store and we found a coffee table and a side table, right? And that was like $90 we weren't expecting to spend, but we're so happy we did. Alcohol, I'll put 50 in case we need a box of wine. Vet bills, I don't think we have any this month. Books, I'm gonna put 10. And then vacation, we have none. So ideally I like to see my credit card around the $1,500 mark. It's just kind of what works for me. And yeah, so this is saying that I'm only negative 1727. So that's pretty good. I think I might try and I'm gonna put $2,000. No, that's a lot. I'm gonna put 1,000. Then what I like to do is then I'll put what I'm gonna pay myself. So I'm probably gonna pay myself $3,000 because that brings me back into the positives. And then what I like to do is I like to put everything in my actuals to see what the breakdown is, to see if I'm okay with the percentages. And this will kind of give us a little breakdown on our budget percentages, right? To see if we're in that good conscious spending plan. So right now we have bills at 30%, which is good. That's way under the 50%. Expenses 25, happy with that. Investments 33 and savings 11. I'd like to see the savings number higher, but overall I'm very happy with those percentages. That's how I do my budget. It might seem like a little backwards to some people, but it's what works for me, and I feel like I don't see a lot of people do it this way. And at the end of the day, all that matters is that it works for you. You know what I mean? Because it's your money. You're the one that's trying to get places and save and invest for your future. So who cares if no one else gets it, as long as it works for you. Alrighty guys, that is it for today's video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I hope it kind of felt like, you know, we're friends catching up over coffee and I'm just like giving you all the deets, spilling all the tea on my budgeting system. Like I said, I want to preface, this is what works for me. It does not have to work for you. I'm not a financial professional. This is just what I do. If you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to leave them down below or DM me on Instagram. Like I said though, I just don't feel comfortable giving financial advice. It's just not my forte. I will leave that for the, like I said, financial professionals. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I love you guys so much, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye!